news networks and broadcasting networks were actually referring to the African people in New Orleans as refugees and not citizens. That is very deep, people, because that's part of the reason why they did not feel obliged to help the people of New Orleans in that situation. Because if you look at the United States Constitution, technically, people who call themselves African American are still under that level of white supremacy where black people are referred to as 3/5 human, according to the United States Constitution. That's why I keep telling people to pull out of their attachment to the Constitution, drop the label of Black African American, and reclaim either just African or Moorish. One of the two, okay? So yeah, like I was saying, this incident that happened, Hurricane Katrina, was completely orchestrated by the Haarp program, our United States government, and they really wanted to relocate and displace the African people in New Orleans and dig up oil and dig up gold mines, people, because one of the things they found after Hurricane Katrina hit and after the damage was done, when they started the rebuilding process, all of a sudden, they just so happened to find large portions of oil, large portions of precious metals, and one of them being gold. And another thing that happened after this Katrina incident, 5 years later, the Gulf oil spill happened. And all of this was to get white people to buy land, buy stock and land in New Orleans, okay, to push the black people out and to reclaim the resources, okay? And they've been doing this for a long time now. They've been trying to do this Haarp thing over the coast of Africa, but Africa is the only continent that is embedded in the earth, okay, in the earth's core. So they can do the hurricane thing or the typhoon thing or the tidal wave thing in Africa to an extent, but they cannot hit Africa with earthquakes because Africa is embedded in the central core of the planet, of the flat plane of the planet. That's what's really special about the land of Africa. So when you look at what went on in Katrina with Haarp, it was completely orchestrated, completely planned out. And when the Russian government and the Cuban government were actually offering hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars to aid the people of New Orleans, the United States government denied financial aid for Katrina victims about 2 or 3 times, people. This is all documented, factual evidence. And you have to think, if this was just some random ass storm that wasn't orchestrated by our government, why the hell did they not feel remorse enough to accept financial donations from other countries, people? It's time to wake the hell up. Because these storms are not natural. These hurricanes across the planet are not natural. These tornadoes keep getting bigger, bigger and bigger. Same thing with the cyclones, same thing with the tidal waves, same thing with the earthquakes. They are artificially altering the weather across the planet, and it is to control people and countries who do not abide by the New World Order agenda, and to control the minds of the masses and to control the resources. And that is the main goal of this Haarp program, okay? Period, point blank. A lot of people need to start waking up, okay? And even when you look into the chemtrails situation, they're shooting the chemtrails across the planet to block out the energy of the sun. The sun is a star. Stars are born, stars grow, stars die. The sun is a teenager star right now, according to its age, and it's growing big time. And the government is shooting chemical particles with aluminum and bromine, okay, in the atmosphere to block and reflect the sun's light, but eventually they will fail because the sun is going to get too big for them to control it. So when you look at chemtrails in another perspective, the chemtrail situation is also a part of the Haarp program, because with chemtrails, with those chemicals hitting our lungs, what Phil Valentine touched on is they're actually putting gender-bending chemicals in the chemtrails. They're putting monatomic gold and gender-bending chemicals in the chemtrails in the atmosphere. And what this is doing is artificially causing men to behave in a feminine characteristic and causing women to behave in a masculine characteristic. We can see a lot of that going on in society today. And we can see a lot of people just very lackluster with no drive or motivation and very proud to be that way, okay? Everybody's just walking around with a very careless attitude, almost like they're being, modified or they're being zombified. And one thing, what you will find when you read research monatomic gold is, monatomic gold was used in Haitian zombie powder. Just watch the movie Serpent and the Rainbow. So when the monatomic gold is being dropped in our lungs through the chemtrails, it's actually causing us to become very tired, causing our energy to be drained as well.
When we talk about monatomic gold, there's a lot of scholars like the late great Dr. Delbert Blair. He actually sells monatomic gold. Are there different forms or something? Because I heard that monatomic gold is actually good for you. In fact, I heard that we actually used it in Kemet as well.
I'm glad you touched in on that, because every single metal on the planet, okay, can be used to our benefit. But the thing about the human body is, the human body is all about balance. The human body is supposed to be an amplifier of balance. So anything, any metal or element that exceeds, you know what I mean, its natural content in our body would do our body some harm, okay? Because if you have excessive amounts of calcium in your body, your bones can be hardened to the point where they can actually fracture themselves. You know what I mean? As far as zinc and chromium and bromium, strontium, magnesium, zinc, copper, all of these things, iron, we need in our bodies to sustain us. But any element or metal or form of nutrition that is put in excessive amounts in our body is going to be for our downfall for the most part. Because I've touched on other subjects as well, as with the genetically modified marijuana that's out on the streets as well, people are finding traces of monatomic gold in that as well. So not only are they putting this in the chemtrails across the planet, but they're also putting this in the mainstream weed that they're saying is good, okay? So there's definitely an ulterior motive behind them using the monatomic gold with those two aspects. One thing I will say is, when monatomic gold is used the way it's supposed to be, okay, with alkaline water, the gold can extend your life anywhere from 5 to 15 years, people, easily, okay? It's all about how you use it. So that was a really good question. So yeah, that about sums it up for the Haarp lecture. In a few days, we're going to be touching on the history of the incunabula and the history of Dracula's secret society, okay? His real name was Vladimir the Impaler, and his order and his secret society, they are still thriving, and they are still in full effect, and they are still in action today. So stay tuned, people. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. It's the Chosen One and Bro Sanchez, and we're out.